So after I've clipped and aseptically prepped my area, I'm going to place a Seldinger catheter. So the first thing I need is my needle. And you'll notice it's a pretty large gauge needle compared to a lot of the needles that we're using for other catheters. So I tend to have my patient positioned in lateral recumbency, but depending on the size and the temperament of the patient, you can have them sternal and have their neck extended. But I just find this easier and a lot of times more comfortcomfortable for them, so I'm not hyperextending their neck. So I take my needle, right? I tend to press my thoracic inlet in order to be able to visualize and feel my vessel more easily. I'm always going to be going towards the heart, not towards the nose, right? I insert my needle into the vessel. Hopefully if they have decent blood pressure, I'll see blood flash back into the hub of my needle. At this point, I'm going to take my guide wire, which is on this little plastic thing that helps me with inserting it. I insert that into the hub of the needle, and then I can very easily, with my thumb, push that guide wire into the animal. All right, so I have that in there. Again, I have sterile gloves on when I'm doing this, okay? Now that guide wire is fed into the jugular, I am now going to pull my needle out. I do tend to have a little gauze there that I can put over the area because sometimes a little blood does come out, but now I remove my needle. I still have the guide wire in place. At this point, I have to put my dilator on. This is to open the area because this catheter is thicker compared to that needle, and it can be challenging to get that through the skin. Don't drink too much coffee that day. So I get my dilator through the guide wire, and then I often have to twist it. So you see how I'm doing this twisting motion? Because the hardest part is getting the end of that dilator through the skin. So a lot of times twisting it, and if the animal's going to react, it's usually going to be at this point when you're putting the dilator in. So I put that dilator in. I want to go all the way down to the hub, and then I'm going to pull that dilator right back out, making sure that I sleeve my guide wire in place. Okay. Now it's time for the catheter. So now I take my catheter, and again, I got to get that guide wire through the end of this. All right, so I put that through the end of there. Again, sterile gloves. I usually have like a sterile drape over this area. All right, so catheter, again, twisting can be helpful. Get that in, keep going. It's a long catheter, right? And at this point now, I can pull out my guide wire. I would have like a T-port or whatever I'm connecting it to here that I can put at the end of this, right, to connect that. I should, when I pull that guide wire out, right, I should be seeing blood coming through here, assuming that they have decent blood pressure. If they're really if they have really a bad hypotension, I might not see much of a flash, but I'm much more likely to see it on this than a peripheral vessel. Take that out, right? Connect whatever I'm connecting here, a T-port or directly to my line or whatever I'm doing. I usually put a T-port or something on there. And then you'll see there's little holes on either side of here. I am now going to suture that to their skin so that it doesn't slide around. That's another reason why I love these Seldingers. So I just get, you know, a needle holder, some operating scissors to cut the suture, or Olsenhager needle holder, my thumb forceps. I go through the skin first, and then I put my needle through the hole, and I suture both sides. So now this is intact. It's not just going to slip out, right? And then I can put a nice light wrap over it. Remember, this is the neck, so I don't want to put something that's really putting a lot of pressure on their airway. And I can put a light wrap, and then I have my access port for drawing blood, giving fluids. It's the same process with a multi-lumen one. I would just have multiple tubes coming off of here, and they'd be color-coded, so I know which one is for fluids versus blood draws versus medications, right? So a couple of steps: needle, guide wire, then take the needle off the guide wire, put the dilator through into the guide wire, through into the skin, dilator off, and then catheter onto the guide wire, and then guide wire comes out at the end, and we're left with our beautiful Seldinger.